For January the 31st, 2025, we talk about Butcher's Creek, If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, Digseum, and much more. Welcome to Level 530. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Moxie.
I'm Jala.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Welcome back, Jala.
Hi. Nobody knew exactly who was supposed to go when because Jala's wasn't here.
That timing will probably be tightened up on the edit. But yeah, there was a little bit of uncertainty who should go second.
Or Gwen could just go the other way and just add 30 seconds of pause.
or scramble them, put it in a different order. Right. Yeah. What's going on, Jala?
As I alluded to the last time I was on, January has been a bad month for me. Today was no exception. It has been continuing to be rough. However, I am hoping, everybody that I had in my family that was in the hospital and everything are all out of the hospital now. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that things are getting better. And so I am hoping that perhaps in February I can start my year of 2025.
Yeah, unencumbered, hopefully.
Right. And part of that unencumbrance thing is I have decided that I deactivated my Facebook. I still have my Instagram for now until I can pull off all of the reference videos and stuff that I use, because there's a lot of reference videos that I have on there that I can't get anywhere else. They're not anywhere else on the internet. Mm-hmm. They're only on there. So I want to pull those things off, and then I can deactivate that for pretty obvious reasons in the news recently. But I also haven't, I had a TikTok, but I haven't used TikTok. I deleted it off my phone a long time ago. I don't remember if I deleted the app or deleted my account. But anyway, I'm still on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And I'm on Substack. And those are the two other places other than my server, my Discord server, or Duckfeed Slack, or, those other kind of contact methods. My own website, the Level podcast. Those are the places that I am now. I'm reducing the number, and as very many people who have I wasn't already using my Facebook for a while. I was only using it for the Level. So once the Level jumped ship, I was like, yes, now I can get rid of this. But I wasn't missing that, and honestly, I don't miss Instagram either. So I'm fine. I have cute animal pictures on Blue Sky now. I am working on cultivating my feed so it's full of cute animals like my Instagram. Yeah. So yeah.
Congrats on shedding those. I don't know. Shedding those apps. I've got no idea how to I was about to say the digital detox, but it's I don't know.
It's not really, because I'm still connected to people and I'm still regularly checking stuff. I'm not on Blue Sky a whole hell. I'm on there a few times a day, but I'm not hanging out on it. Yeah. And that's been good for me. If I'm anywhere, I'm more on Substack reading articles and things and being inspired by the artworks and the photography and the writing that's on there. And I've actually I dusted off my chops and wrote a poem for the first time in years, and things like that. So it's kind of been a net positive for me to do that. So
nice.
It's been cool.
Yeah.
So.
And there's always...
highly recommend, because it helps you to keep you from, that super fried scrolling around, just staring at nothing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That a lot of folks do. So
nice.
Anyway, how's everybody else doing?
Doing okay. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can piggyback. I also deactivated my Facebook account and then canceled my X account and moved over to Blue Sky. So I think I'm just kind of at the age where I'm done with social media for the most part. Yeah. But I think Discord is what I have now. But
right.
Yeah. No, all that is good. So I'll second that recommendation. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I history is a blur. I don't know what's happened in the past week. So I don't know how to answer this. I guess the Oscar nominations came out this past week.
Yeah.
So for better or worse, I don't know how people feel about those. I think the main one I was sad about is Evil Does Not Exist did not get nominated for Best Foreign Film, but I don't know. It's the Oscars. Who knows? It's like you shouldn't take it too seriously anyway, I guess. But
I was happy that a very good Palestine documentary, No Other Land, got nominated, but very disappointed that I Saw the TV Glow didn't get anything.
Yeah, I was. I wanted something from Luca Guadagnino to be nominated for something, but since he put out 2 movies this year, but not the case. So
yeah. The only thing I saw was apparently there's some movie about a trans drug lord that was really well liked by everyone except the trans community.
Yeah, it's a movie about a trans Mexican drug lord that has nobody of Mexican heritage and no trans people in it. Which is seems like an oversight. Yeah, that's Emilia Perez. Is the name of that.
And that got nominated for like 13 things, so it's like dominating the nominations.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen that one yet, so I'm withholding any judgment from it. But
yeah.
I did show the movie Memento to my partner over the weekend for the first time. She had not seen that.
Okay.
So that was cool going back to that movie. That movie still holds up.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since like high school.
That's the one where the guy can't remember stuff?
Yeah, the movie's told backwards, at least for part of it, to kind of put you in the subjective point of view of the person with no short-term memory.
No. How about you, Moxie?
I haven't had a whole lot, honestly. It's just kind of been keep on, try not to freeze. That whole thing.
Yeah, that hit hard down there, right?
Yeah, we didn't get hit nearly as hard as a lot of the South did, and most notably, we didn't get any snow, so like streets didn't shut down.
I forgot to mention the snow.
Yeah.
I was lost in my other nut mess, but yeah, we got snow. We got snow here for sure. So, yeah.
But yeah, but the cold still sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had too much going on either. I was kind of sick this weekend, so like Sunday was just gone. Just slept, so at least that was nice. The sleeping and skipping a day, but yeah, not much else going on besides work. So we should talk about games because I did play a lot of that game. Let's get started. Let's do the regular kind of show. What with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss, and we can get started with
the grind.
The grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. Jala, you have been away the longest, so I will throw to you first.
Okay, I'm just gonna bring this up right at the top here. I was reintroduced to Fire Emblem Heroes recently. Fred, my Fire Emblem Sherpa, was talking about it, and it made me want to see if I could get it to work on my phone again, as it's been like a year or a year and a half, and it works now. So I ended up getting a bunch of goodies for returning after a long lapse, and I forgot a whole lot of different stuff about the game, but I have since picked that back up again. But yeah, like stuff like the Ether raids are wildly populated with extremely OP players. And back when I played last, I was holding my own and I got into like higher ranks than even Fred was in. But now the power creep is really like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to get a whole bunch of different units and stuff and, play this some more to get back savvy with like all the stuff that's been added since the last time I played before I'm going to be able to compete there. But anyway, it's still just as fun as it was before. I use it when I'm sitting at work in a meeting and other things like that where I can pretend it can look like I'm doing something on my webcam, but I'm actually just playing Fire Emblem Heroes and it'll be great. So
this is the iOS gotcha kind of micro tactics. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the micro tactics game, which, it saves the spot in whatever battle you're in and everything. So, like, if you have to suddenly close it or something, you can get back into it real quick. All of the battles are very short turnarounds, very small maps. But the thing that I like about it that I found myself really missing when I was away from it and playing other Fire Emblem games is that Fire Emblem Heroes has, like, implements all of the different neat combat stuff that was added into a bunch of different iterations of Fire Emblem, but they're not constant throughout every, entry in the series. So, like some of them have it where you can pair up two people together and then they have a combo attack or whatever, and then other ones don't. And then the other ones have this other type of, thing that they do. And like they're all different mechanically. And this game kind of combines all of those different mechanics together. And, like at this point, because this game has been out for like, 7 or 8 years at this point, it's like getting to the point where some of the descriptions of some of the different skills are this long page. I'm like, okay, this is way too much text for me to read. I'm just, does the skill do a good? Okay, I'll put that one on, that kind of thing. But so it's getting to the point where I feel like they can't really add much more without it getting too bloated to where like a new player would be overwhelmed. But at least back when I jumped in, it was great because it had all of those different elements to it, and it wasn't quite as complex as it is at this point. So I don't know. I kind of like, since they have Fire Emblem Heroes characters that actually show up in Fire Emblem Engage, which was the last mainline Fire Emblem game, I'm kind of hoping that they do something more with like learning some of this, like some of what people like from this game, and then just applying some of that information into the next one, because Engage really was obviously influenced by the existence of Heroes, because it brings all of these different characters from across the series into it that you can summon as, companion characters that also buff your main characters and things like that. So I'm kind of interested to see what they do next with that. But anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. I played some more Fire Emblem Heroes and I continue to play it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
I'm more curious about the context of playing during work. Like, is there a bank of games that are good play while working type games, or is this the first one to fill that?
This one in particular is really good because I can just swipe up or turn off my phone real quick if I get asked a question in a meeting. And like I can open it back up again and it's exactly where it was when I closed it. And it doesn't matter if the app times out and closes on its own on my phone. Like I can open it back up and it's still automatically saved my data. So that's better than a lot of other mobile games where you have to, manually save it or whatever, or, like stuff like that happens. So for me, Fire Emblem Heroes is really like my play while working game. So.
I found clicker games can be good because you don't really have to, watch them.
Yeah, something like that. That would be another one.
Mm-hmm.
There is that one, I forget the name of it, that just came out on Steam recently, I think. Or at least it was featured recently. That's like a productivity game that you have on in the background. And it's
yeah.
Yeah, somebody, I believe it was Dog Nozzle, said that he used that and actually found that to be really helpful. I might be misremembering who told me. Sorry if I did. But yeah, like something like that would also be something that I think might be good for that.
Yeah, Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions is the one that I'm aware of. Yeah. I'm bummed out about that one because let me check here. There is no Mac version of it. And like the division between these is really dumb. Like I do all of my work on my Mac computer over here at this desk. And my Windows computer is over here, and they're different desks. They're different computers for different purposes. And having that on my Windows computer does not make any difference for me.
You're right. Right. Oh, and then also Yolk Heroes. That was that one I mentioned a little while back. That was by Matthew Ritter, fellow that I followed originally because he did pixel comics. But anyway, that game is like a little that cool Tamagotchi / Pokemon / adventure game kind of thing. And that one's another one that I think you could probably play during work and just have it up somewhere and not have to pay attention to it real stringently.
No.
So, yeah. So, other stuff that I played Streets of Rage 4, co-opted it with Dave on Steam Deck. It's a fun 2020 beat 'em up if you haven't played it. And like the story, not that the story matters, is that 10 years after Mr. X's death, the Syndicate has risen again, led by Mr. X's twin children. And the protags are looking for clues and end up arrested on false charges, break out of jail, track down the twins who intend to use a brainwashing signal they develop to control the city.
God,
and then
so
you
dumb.
fight them.
I love I love that early 90s beat 'em up dumb.
Yeah.
Is that I can't remember. Is it that or Final Fight that has been absorbed into the Street Fighter universe?
Final Fight is Capcom.
Final Fight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this game, you have regular attacks, special attacks, which take health, and star moves, which are specials you unlock by collecting stars in levels. This one features a new combo system, which allows juggling opponents against a wall or another player. And you can also regain health by performing follow-up attacks without getting hit. So that's cool. A lot of games I feel are doing that more recently, and in the last several years. Definitely, that's not something that you would have in like an old title.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a modern concession for quality of life.
Yeah.
And each of the different characters you play have unique traits, such as Max has a wall jump and a grappling jump, and Shiva's weapon parry mechanics and aerial rave or aerial air combos, and like Floyd's long range grapple. They all have some kind of special thing that they do. So like playing the individual characters makes a difference. And I just picked Blaze because I was like, oh, I know that character. That'll be the one I play. I don't know what any of these other people play like. So, I'll go stock standard. I forget who Dave picked, but anyway, it was a fun time. Nonsense story. Plays better, plays more like a modern game, but also still feels in the same spirit as the old school beat 'em ups. So.
How's the music? Because like the music was the standout feature of the Streets of Rage series to me.
I can't really remember because we had the volume kind of low because we were playing like later in the evening when my parents were asleep. So, and we were playing on the little Steam Deck. So, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know there were sound effects. I know there was music. I think some of the music was good. I don't remember because that was so low. So I am unreliable in that respect. I cannot tell you.
Yeah. Is it short enough that you beat it?
Oh yeah, we beat it.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah. Any other questions about Streets of Rage 4?
No.
Cool. The next one I played is called The Complex. It's a 2020 FMV branching path narrative game by Wales Interactive, who made like 7 million FMV branching path narrative games.
Okay.
Anyway, this one follows two scientists charged with saving the life of a potential bioterrorist after an outbreak happens in London. They are locked in a high security laboratory, and they uncover the truth of the weapon that was used and the pharmaceutical technology of the company they work for and how that was made and a bunch of other stuff. And there are a total of 8 endings, and it's a fun little title. If you like FMV games in general, this one is a fun little one to play.
How do you think the team felt when they released this game on March 31st of 2020?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question.
That isn't a question that I expect you to answer. I was just looking at this on Steam to come up with observations or questions about it.
Right.
And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
The production value looks really high compared to what I normally expect from these.
Right. That's kind of consistent with all of Wales Interactive stuff. They know how to put the quality into the production. And there's no like hinky stuff with, the UI doesn't work quite right. Because you remember I had that problem with Contradiction, because that one's an older one.
Yeah. Or you were trying to play that on Steam Deck or on your iPad or something too?
I don't remember what I was playing on. I was playing on something and it didn't work right on that, but then I played it on something else and then it worked fine. So I don't remember which one that was. I'd have to go back and listen to that. But anyhow, so that was a fun game. Like I do every once in a while. Like I have so many FMV games in my Steam library that I need to go through. So I don't want to OD on them. So like I just kind of dole them out over time.
Mm-hmm.
So
does this do anything like mechanically that other ones don't, or is this a pretty paint by numbers like FMV game?
This one is pretty standard FMV game type stuff. Like you have relationship meters with the different characters that, depending upon your choices, will change how they feel about you, which then changes how they act towards you, which then leads to your branching paths at the end, along with like your primary choices. So, all of those things play a part in how everything plays out, but it's all still kind of funneled through specific ends. Like it's not like, oh, well, if you do this, then this character will fall in love with you or what. It's not that kind of a thing. Like it's more funneled into the specific channels they want you to go through. So there's not like, because it's FMV, they can't record 7,000 million billion additional scenes. So sometimes it feels like more funneled into something that feels more shoehorned, but that's kind of a problem with having something that is FMV in the first place, because like budgetary reasons limit you to, if you want to have 8 endings, the number of different factors that could change throughout the entire game to make all the different scenes would
3.
be like yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like you just have to figure all that stuff out when you're working on your branching path stuff. And this one's a little bit tighter in terms of like, how free is it with your choices and how that plays out. But still, it's a fun little game. I liked it better than whatever the something red, I forget what the name of it was, that other Whales Interactive one I did a while back on, I think it was Switch. It's been a minute. So there was another one that was like the quote unquote interactive movie or whatever. So.
Yeah.
For some reason, I got this confused with The Bunker, which is like another interactive FMV.
Yeah, I have that one in my backlog as well. I'll talk about that eventually, Ben.
I was looking at like the screenshots and like the hero image on Steam, and I was like, is that Katie from Letterkenny? I went down and looked. Yeah, no, I'd recognize that actress. The at least the actress who is featured. I was like, oh, she's from a comedy show that I watch. Yeah.
Huh. Well, she's a primary character in this. So cool. So there's that, and then I have one more. So this last one is called If on a Winter's Night for Travelers. So this is a free to play, 100% free. You can get it for free. 2021 narrative-driven point-and-click adventure game with horror elements that explores the story of 4 different characters who find themselves on a train in the 1920s participating in a mass ball, but they have no idea how they got there. So they start recounting their story to try to figure out what happened and how they ended up here on this train. And this is primarily a solo endeavor by Laura Hunt, and I really enjoyed it, although some of the point-and-click pitfalls that you usually get, say, for example, pixel hunting, come into play here. So you have that you have to contend with. So if you don't like that kind of thing, stay away from this. But this is a very cool game if you are a fan of point-and-click adventure games in general. And the narrative is very memorable, although the ending had a bit too much like, let's explain what's happening for my taste personally.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like a subjective element. Like, I'm notably one of those people who's like, I hate the tutorials where they have to tell you the thing. Let me do the thing. Introduce me to the idea as I'm doing the thing. Don't tell me.
Yes.
And the other thing is, also, I'm a majorly like, don't recap and spell out everything. I don't need you to do that. Don't do that ever. And, like anytime a game does that, like I'm sensitive to it is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But overall, I would absolutely recommend this game to folks, particularly if you like adventure games. This one's a very cool one. It's not very long. It's in bite-sized chunks. It is free. It's very beautiful. I mean, if you look at the artwork, go look at the artwork. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous style, and you don't usually see like a point-and-click adventure game hold to a strict isometric like that.
Yeah.
And kind of go to the diorama style screens.
Right. And it also, like, because it's those dioramas, and because of the music and stuff like that, it definitely has like this older feeling to it, and kind of does feel a little bit like, this is a dollhouse, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so those are the games that I played. Any questions about If on a Winter's Night for travelers?
Is there any rigor to the puzzles, or is this more of a explore the narrative in a nonlinear fashion kind of deal?
It's explore the narrative in a nonlinear fashion kind of deal.
Yeah.
So
I say that non-derogatory. I just
Yeah, it's not, oh man, I got to really sit here and try to calculate out no, you don't have to do all that. You don't have to crack out a pen and paper for this. So
I would probably do it anyway. No, I didn't have any other questions about it. It looks neat. I feel like you've mentioned it to me before, or maybe it's like popped up on lists for me.
I have shared it on Blue Sky a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have seen it there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to talk about this time. I played another 5 games, but we're not talking about those today. I have a backlog.
Yeah. I've got one. I've got a new one. This past weekend, I streamed Butcher's Creek.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
and the one guy who, the barks on these characters. Just the one guy who screams "fuck penis."
So it looked very what is it, Dusk style or something?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. It's made by the Dusk guy. It is
okay.
Yeah. It's made by David Szymanski, the Dusk, the guy who made Dusk, Iron Lung, Squirrel Stapler, things that I've played on streams.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. You're playing as a guy who gets caught by these cultists who capture people to make snuff films to give to their kind of the deity monster that they worship to placate it, called the Watcher. They capture you and you break out and kind of go on a warpath, just beating the shit out of a bunch of people in a basement. It's first person.
It's a very large basement.
It's a complex of basements. Sometimes you go into a forest. Maybe there are a couple of cabins. A lot of it's basement. This is a first person melee horror game. Real similar to like Condemned Criminal Origins, if you remember that. And it has a pretty basic combat system insofar as there's not a huge amount of variety in the enemies that you fight, but they use the same weapons that you do. And the combat is very weighty, very chunky, and augmented by some just really, really well done sound design. Some of the profane barks aside.
Yeah, the audio, because I was watching this on Friday, the audio was just very disturbing and visceral,
Yeah. You are sorry, Jala, bonking a lot of implements, a lot of people's across a lot of people's noggins. And the impacts are wet, they are loud, they reverberate. Like the cult's name for what you are, because your coming was prophesied, of course, is the Tooth Sower, because you knock people's teeth out and spread them like seeds across the land.
That's actually pretty badass.
Yeah, I know, right? It's short. It's a little frustrating. I wish that there was more feedback when you were low on health. A lot of the deaths kind of seem to come out of nowhere. But I dig the like really brutal, very fast, high stakes combat stuff.
So I could not figure out the health system. Like, sometimes you're gaining health by taking pictures, but you can also just pick up pictures. And why do pictures give you health?
Your guy is also this is a little muddled. The cult is making snuff film for this deity. Your guy is just in it for the love of the game, I guess. So like there's a way that you recover health is by taking out like a Polaroid camera and like snapping photos of stuff, like, you know, blood stains from your combat on the wall, or, you know, the different like gory scenes that you find in the environment. And then also you can find some of the pictures that the cult snapped, and that itself, it's just a metaphor, you know, to stand in for like health kit pickups or whatever. Yeah. And there's a whole system like you have like an ink ribbon style item that lets you save at VCRs that are like VHS tapes, but VHS tapes are also like disposable keys that will open up special doors that you have to feed tapes into. And also the more VHS tapes you carry, the higher your max health is. So it's neat that they make those into a really high reward pickup, because if it was just finding different kinds of melee weapons, you know, to replace the ones that broke, that would be a little bit of a bummer. Finding a cache of VHS tapes is actually really high value.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's short. You know, I think that it took me 3 hours-ish to beat it just over the course of 2 nights. So go in knowing that. I think it's priced about right. Davis Szymanski does good work. You know, I don't know that this is as like, I don't know, transcendent as Dusk or as inventive as Iron Lung, but it's a really well put together horror game, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. Any questions about Butcher's Creek?
Nope. I think we all watched it a little bit.
I saw all of you in the chat, at least for a second or two. Yeah. The other thing that I have been playing is I have put my summer car to bed.
What?
Yeah, no, I decided that I had to be done with it because I had put so much time into it, and I reached a point. I had put together the car entirely. I actually had that done last weekend, getting all of the pieces together. And I told the story last.
The tires.
Well, the second I tried to back out of my garage, I heard pop pop, and then my front tires were flat. Yeah, yep, pop pop. And then I had to make a bunch of money so I could buy new tires. A full set, because like one of the things you have to do after you build a car, you can't really drive it around on the main roads until you get it inspected, until you pass inspection. So I did a bunch of the kind of odd jobs. I can talk about the ones that I haven't spoken of yet, you know, briefly here if you would like. But I got those tires, and then the next time I tried to drive into town to get it inspected, there was some smoke coming off from under the hood. So I was like, okay, like I can probably just like take it slow, see what this is. And then not a second after I thought that, fire burst out. So
good thing that didn't happen at the inspector's place, you know?
I know, right? How embarrassing would that be? Yeah, no, instead I had to go and get my tractor and tow it back to my house. But the problem with that one was the fuel pump. So I had to take out the fuel pump and then make enough money to order it, and then reinstall it. But then it passed inspection just fine. So Yahtzee.
So can you just like bribe the inspector or like bonk him or anything like that?
No. There's nothing you can really do. Like maybe you can flip off or punch the inspector. I do not expect it to get you very far. You can just drive the car without getting inspected, but my car was catching fire. It was not the inspection that was stopping me from doing it. Like if you drive when it's not inspected, there's just a chance you get pulled over and fined. Yeah. To make the money for the tires, I sold a bunch of firewood that I had to chop. After a certain point, your uncle gives you the keys to his vacuum truck, and people will start calling to have you come and empty out septic tanks. So you have to learn to drive this big rig kind of thing and get it around the tight kind of dirt roads to get to the houses where that needs to happen, and just the nerve-wracking process of backing that thing up, without running over the person who's going to pay you to do the job. And then the big money job that requires at least outlay, but the most time, is brewing sugar wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ferments in real time.
It only takes about 3 days in the game for it to be fully ready. But you find a bucket and you find a lid for the bucket. And if you put a bunch of sugar and water and yeast into the bucket and wait and then bottle it up, you can sell it to a guy who gives you top dollar for the kind of the stronger and more pure that it is. This is a beverage called Kliju, Kliju, I think it is, or Kilju. I think it's Kliju because Kilju is so like in the early and mid 90s in Finland they had this huge recession, and I guess that like the process of making your own alcohol like this got super popular among kind of like lower class working people who were suffering the most under it.
So you're learning important lessons for our near future.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was just I was streaming this at one point, and I was like, oh, can you make Kliju? And I was like, yeah, actually I saw that on a wiki. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's totally a thing, because it's like the game takes place in like 1995. Yeah. It's a really neat game. It's a game that wants to kill you in a lot of hilarious and embarrassing ways. I never had a lot of interest in like cars beyond just knowing enough to keep my own car running. That's not really the main draw. It was fun as like a puzzle to put together, but like as far as like a really hostile life sim goes, I adore this game.
I can't remember if you die, is it permadeath, or do you just like spawn in a hospital and then have to walk back? I remember having to take a bus back.
Yeah. I talked about that last week. There's an option when you start a new game to make it permadeath. I made my first game permadeath, and that's when I died on my moped. The first time I died on my moped, and I was like, I don't want to lose that progress. I'm gonna go no permadeath. If you die when there is no permadeath, you respawn at the graveyard. Yeah. I love it. I can't wait for the sequel to hit early access or whatever. It is a real special, funny, gross, hostile game that fucking hates you. And it's great.
Hooray.
It sounds hilarious. Yeah.
Any questions about My Summer Car?
No, I'm glad that you enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're finished.
Now
with
what
it.
makes it killed you?
Apparently Kliju is really not good. Like the achievement for making and selling like a really high quality batch of it is like it says like, congratulations, you just made very strong commercial deer piss. Apparently it's not really good. So that's all I had. Butcher's Creek and My Summer Car.
Cool.
Who wants to go next? Moxie, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't have a whole heck of a lot. I've been continuing on with Dying Light 2. Let me see here. I got into, I think, one of the weirdest side quests I've seen. Apparently, rifts have been opened up in space-time,
Okay.
And I'm traveling through them, and there's maybe an evil version of me that I might have to fight.
That's Looney Tunes. Okay.
Yeah, it is very strange, and the rest of the game is not that sort of tone at all.
That has to be an expansion, it sounds like, or DLC that was included in whatever version you got.
Or something. I have no idea.
That sounds like an awesome application of the character. If there's a character creator, is just slap a goatee on whatever character you made.
regardless of sex or gender. Yeah.
Yep.
But what if you have a goatee?
Then there's a second
like
one
double
off.
Goatee.
There's a second one put slightly to the side.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything real. I've started doing. You can eventually unlock the ability to do various daily challenges, which build up towards their the various seasons of live service that they've introduced. Because each season, when they introduce a new one, the old one still stays there.
That's good.
Yeah, it's actually pretty user friendly, and it ends up being so far pretty fun, especially because a number of them are, I wouldn't say so much over the top, but like there's one that I have now that's just kill 30 enemies with remote explosives.
Good.
And so it's kind of fun. Like, normally that's not particularly relevant. It's not that hard to scrounge up the gear to make C4, but it's often not necessarily really worth your time. So it's kind of fun, then getting a bunch of it and just, going wild, blowing stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I got one that was like, kill 100 enemies by using spikes. So in this game, for anything except for like full-on story bosses, like kicking them or throwing them or whatever into like spiked barrels or spiked walls is an instant kill. Mm-hmm. And it's especially fun because, like, at least for the zombies, even kind of rubbing up against the spikes is an instant kill. So you can very much just like the non-fast zombies, you can get a bunch of them to follow you and just like run behind the thing with spikes and they'll all impale themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just kind of fun to do these things. And some of the challenges are actually, much more challenging. But a lot of them are just kind of silly.
What was the game released with a plan? Like, was it released with the kind of the understanding that it was going to be going to get this kind of live service season treatment kind of thing? Because it seems like a weird fit for like an open world single player game.
Yeah. So it was released with a kind of complete edition you could buy that, guaranteed to come with everything, that sort of thing. And so there was definitely always the plan to have like bunches of DLCs and expansions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if from the outset it was planned to have actual seasons and events and stuff like that. It does have multiplayer, so there is at least theoretically some reason to care about like cosmetics and stuff. Although I haven't actually played or co-op at all, so I don't know how well it plays.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, just continues to be fun. Does a pretty good job of having a good power arc, although it is a little bit getting to the point where I feel like a lot of the Fallout games have this thing where you eventually get to the point where you'll reach like villains slash anti, maybe not full on villains that are just like, oh, I'm rich and I'm not going to help you unless you do this thing for me. And it's by this point of the game, it's like, dude, do you realize how easily I could kill you? Like, I have killed literally thousands of people already.
Yeah.
But
some of them are zombies. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's the other thing that's a little weird is I feel like it doesn't quite make sense the level of post-apocalypse this world is in, considering like humans seem to be fairly easily able to kill the zombies in mass, which means that like the number of zombies in the world should be dropping pretty rapidly. But whatever.
Yeah, well, otherwise there wouldn't be a game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you have anything else besides Dying Light 2?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I just got two, and I guess my first one's kind of similar to what Moxie was doing. I quote-unquote finished playing SNKRX, the Snake Doctor game that we always talk about.
Yeah. You picked this back up a while ago, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if I talked about this game like within recent history, like in the last week or two, but
you talked about it I mean, both you and Dennis, and I think Moxie had like a real run of episodes where you talked about it. But I don't remember how recently you did it.
Yeah, I probably didn't mention it, I guess, on the show then. Yeah, I reinstalled it and just started playing it because basically, I don't know, trying to find new games to play and stuff like that. But a lot of times it's just like, man, I just want to go back and play this game. And so kind of felt that way, reinstalled it, and kind of took it upon myself. There were a handful of challenges that I hadn't gotten, which was like beating the game with certain class configurations. And so just going back and doing that and able to knock out all the achievements. But yeah, that game is still good and still very fun. Was still finding synergies that I hadn't found before across different like class combinations. So it kind of just speaks to the really long legs on the game and just how kind of singular it is as far as like just being a really good game that has no meat on, like it's very lean for what it's doing. There's no like fat on it.
Yeah. So for people who are unaware, this is a game that plays like Snake. Where you have you've got a snake made up of squares or dots that you're navigating around. But the snake is made up of it's a D&D party kind of thing. We're talking about the class synergies and stuff.
Yeah, so the flow of the game is it's like you go to a market, you have one of three things you can buy, and you can reroll the shop, and each thing is like a roll that's either a singular type of like fantasy roll or some combination of it. So for example, you could just have a sorcerer that's just the sorcerer class, or you could have something like a cannoneer, which is both a ranger and vulcanist class, whatever those mean. And so each individual character has some sort of move where it's like maybe they'll automatically shoot at an enemy every 3 seconds, or maybe they'll buff other people in this like snake train that you have. But as you purchase more and more of these classes, you can unlock abilities if you get a certain number of class combinations, and it depends on the class. So some of them will give you a reward every 3 that you get, some every 2, and the number of times they reward you might be different. So yeah, and and then it's a 25 level game, and every 3 levels you get a perk. It's similar to like an artifact in Slay the Spire, where it gives you some sort of cross-cutting ability that applies to your entire team. Like it could just be enemies spawn gold when they die, or any projectile attacks will chain lightning now if you do that. And so the goal is to try and build like a combination of all these classes that just becomes very OP. So it's similar to like Balatro in the sense of like, like the blind keeps getting bigger, the enemies keep getting tougher, and so you have to try and do a runaway with whatever your combination is.
Nice.
Added to that, there's a decent looping feature where you can play as many times as you want. So say you have a busted class, you can play that to infinity until you die, or until like the things are like too strong. The only downside with that is there's only one class that scales infinitely with that, which is the merchant class, because there's specifically one thing that'll deal damage based on how much gold you have, and that's the only thing that scales infinitely. It's not like everything maxes out at like level 3, all your characters, so you can't go beyond that. Anyway, yeah, sorry for describing a game that we've already talked about at length on the podcast, but very good still.
The last time we talked about it, I took a look, like it was in 2021,
okay.
Like over the course of like 4 months.
Okay, so. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess the context for this is I started playing this, and then I was hanging out with my friends from college, like on Thursday night online, and instead of playing like a multiplayer game, we were all playing our own games, but I showed that I was playing this, and so showed it to them. Actually, that reminds me, there's one more game I can talk about. But I showed them this, and it ended up by the end of the night, all 3 of us were just playing this and then watching one of those like class compositions. So
nice. It
is, if you like this sort of game, I think it is very well renowned from the people who get into it. So recommendation for that. All right, and then I have 2 more to talk about. One is I played Liar's Dice with these same folks that I was talking about before. It's called Liar's Bar, I believe. It's a relatively new game, but it's just a dressed up version of Liar's Dice or Liar's Poker, and it is super furry coded for better or worse.
This has popped up on my recommended, and that is something that has like steered me away from it. Not that I have anything against furries; it's just not an aesthetic that calls out to me. But this has it's
the furry community definitely into this one.
Yeah, I mean it's not anything that interferes with it. It's just there, so your mileage may vary. But the game itself is, as I mentioned, it's Liar's Dice and Liar's Poker. I think Liar's Dice might be maybe the more, I don't know if either of these are familiar games to people, but Liar's Dice is the one that I had heard before, and I think it's featured in a few like Western games, like either the Assassin's Creeds or the Red Dead Redemptions.
Okay.
Where it's like everybody rolls 5 die, ones are wild, and you have to make a guess at how many of a number is available among all the people's die. So for example, you throw out a bid like 4 5s or 6 2s or something like that. And the next person can either call you and say you're wrong, or they have to increase the bet and go a number higher, and they can pick any number they want. And that's how it goes. And eventually somebody gets called out for being a liar. If they're right, if they rightly called him out as a liar, then it turns into Russian roulette. And so everybody has... I guess this is probably part of why it's like not humans playing the game and animals instead, is because the animals will somewhat graphically kill themselves, by playing Russian roulette.
That's
not.
That's
or
kind
maybe
of
I should say. Maybe they cartoonily kill themselves. I guess like it's not like it's not.
I'm looking at some stills of it, and it's pretty graphic.
Yeah. It is definitely edgy, and some of the dialogue is wild. Like when a pig was like shooting themselves in the game, like the fox who was next to him was like, "Me and my family are going to eat good tonight," and it was just like, "Oh my god!"
Jeez.
But so awkward theme to have around this game and whatever. But it can be an enjoyable experience if you're playing online with friends, which is what we were doing. And then the other version of the game, because I think it's just 2 modes, is Liar's Poker. And the way that one works, it's similar. You either have a king, a queen, or these weird kind of like Uno cards where they're like, they each have a different rule associated with them. And at the beginning of like a blind, they'll say queen or king, and you throw down 1, 2, 3, or however many cards you want, and you have to call out whatever it is. And you have to match whatever the blind is. So if they say queens, people have to just play queens that round. And so you can say 3 queens and throw down three cards. If the next person calls you a liar, it's the same sort of thing happens. I think the only difference in that one versus the poker one is it's drinking poison bottles instead of Russian roulette.
Mm.
And you have like 2 of them. So the second one will kill you. The first one just makes you look not happy. So yeah, I don't know. These are just fun party games, I think, more or less, with a awkward theming and awkward stakes around it. But the games themselves can be pretty fun. So
yeah, I mean, just online way to play this kind of social deduction kind of thing.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they have like variants on each of those games where like it'll be like a zany mode or like a more like volatile mode where like they'll change a tiny rule to it where it's like they might add modified cards, or they might make it where it's like instead of shooting yourself if you're wrong, you point it at somebody else if you're right, and that sort of thing, and still the Russian roulette style. But anyway, side note, game I had forgotten about until we mentioned that. But yeah, anyway. The last one I have is a game called Digseum. And this, I found this after playing SNKRX, where I was kind of looking for more bite-sized games that were well rated. And this is basically a cookie clicker roguelike game, which I had never really seen that pairing before, specifically. And to preface, I'm not really big on cookie clicker games. That's kind of not my jam, but I figured I'd give this a try. But yeah, the combination, they don't necessarily put that combination up front, the fact that it's a roguelike. But basically it starts off as a cookie clicker game. The basic gist of it is you're trying to build a museum. The way you build a museum is you dig up artifacts at different sites, and all of that is cookie clicker mechanics, where it's like you can upgrade, like your digging ability, you can upgrade the value of the artifacts that you find, you can upgrade the sites and stuff like that. And all of that costs money, and all of the money that you make is generated by people coming to your museum. So you have like a time meter where it's like you make 20 gold per minute, or you make 40 gold per minute, and that goes up as you do these things. The tasks it's nothing complex like Slay the Spire or anything like that. You're just kind of mindlessly clicking things to dig it. So it's not like high level thinking or anything. But what becomes interesting is as you're playing this, you kind of hit a wall where it's like, well, I'm never going to increase enough to get to these next like spots, just because like I'm not making money nearly as fast enough. And there's this one resource that is available once per map as you're playing the game. And you find out that you can do a prestige mode where you basically end your run, and then it takes you to another modifier or another room where you spend those as resources to make permanent upgrades. And then you play the same game again, starting off from scratch, but with whatever modifiers you'd made just from these like 2 or 3 resources you picked up. And then the modifiers start to snowball, so that, okay, well now instead of 2 or 3 of those, you're going to pick up like 6 per run. And now instead of losing all your progress, you're going to keep some of it here and that sort of thing. And so then you end up playing the same game, like it ends up being like maybe a dozen times or so. But then since it's like a roguelike, that accelerates so that you can go a lot farther and a lot faster than you could before. So kind of like, because I've heard like game design talks about cookie clicker, where they talk about like, this is like game design at its very purest form, so it's like, even if you don't like the game, you should at least see what it's doing, so that, because that sort of like scaling is going to be in other games, but you probably will just dress it up in some other way. So I was kind of going into it with that mindset of thinking of it that way. So it was an interesting experience. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend it or not. If you like cookie clickers, then you should definitely check it out. But yeah, I don't know. It was interesting when it was small, and I think it only took maybe an hour or 2 to beat. So, in that sense, I was happy enough with my experience. But
it's almost like a little like design challenge. Like to me, an idle game like Cookie Clicker is completely divorced from the kind of like stakes that would involve anything roguelike. They're like it's progress that begets progress until you get tired of playing it, or you roll over and start over again, right?
Yeah, and I would say that that's something to the advantage of this entry, is that because like I do not like the timer aspect of any of those types of games where it's like it feels like kind of like an artificial barrier, like an invisible wall, where it's like oh, I guess I need to like wait for 30 minutes because the game's telling me to.
Yeah.
This, even though this has like that sort of timer sort of mechanic in the game, you're not really meant to wait at any given time. Like you're meant to do something else to improve your situation so that you're not waiting. Yeah.
So if you like this sort of thing, I would recommend Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms is a very similar idea in terms of being a clicker game, but that ends up being much more about the strategy of, building up your runs, and in that one has a lot of characters that interact with your runs and your meta progression. So that's something you could check out if you enjoy this sort of thing.
I will have to look that up.
And you might recruit Drizzt.
Although, as I recall, Drizzt is kind of mid.
Oh, I mean, I could have told you that. I mean, in terms of protagonists of fantasy novels, it's a sick burn, you say.
Yes.
Nice. So SNKRX, Liar's Bar, and Digseum. Man, I wish that was not the name of that game. Digseum is very awkward.
Digseum? It sounds like some sort of pharmaceutical I'd see on a ad on Fox News.
Yeah, I don't care for it one bit.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Dennis posted this, and Dennis is not here, so I will read it. Dennis asked, be it rings or mushrooms, minigames offer more interesting health systems than just an HP bar. What are some of the most interesting health systems you've seen in games, and how do they change the way you play? And I'll get started here with Chicken Riggies, who says, Sekiro, you get hit and you just die.
Yeah.
Not exactly. Feels
this
like
very much encapsulates why I've never played Sekiro.
It feels that way a lot of the time. I would have thought that Chicken Riggies, that Jack would say something like the weird little revival system changes the way you like enter fights a little bit, and it's not like a full revival, but kind of a half one. It is just an interesting kind of second wind system, but also you get hit and just die a lot of the time. Yeah. Let's see, Jala, what does Jams Downey say?
Jams Downey says, the first most obvious thing that comes to mind for me is Halo. The idea that you have a shield that will regenerate if you just slow the F down and chill out for a second instead of running and gunning like so many in the genre had done before.
What's so funny about that?
I don't know. I'm just imagining who was the rest of everyone. Chill out.
I don't know.
All these young kids running around and shooting.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and that wasn't the original Halo one. Like, Halo had like med kits and stuff. I don't know if Halo was the first to do the like pause and cover to recover health, but like, I don't know. That definitely like entered the bloodstream and never quite left.
I feel like Call of Duty did it before they did, like the OOG Call of Duty.
Yeah, Halo did it in 2004, but I don't know. Somebody who knows that series better than me could tell you. Moxie, what does Millie Binns say?
Millie says, the Banner Saga uses a basic numbered health total for characters. However, it affects the character's ability to deal damage. You've only got half health, well, you only deal half damage. Strikes me as both realistic and an interesting tactical choice. It made for some hard decisions in combat.
Yeah.
So I know I've seen similar things to that, although not as kind of in-depth and crunchy in like Civilization, games like that. And it seems like it really makes some interesting strategies in that. So I could definitely see this being cool in a more strategy-focused game like Banner Saga.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't aware that it was like that. I'm just trying to play that out of my head. How that doesn't become a rich get richer kind of thing. Because
so I know I wonder if some of it could end up being kind of you more play it for the macro in terms of like, oh, since I know this enemy can't one-shot me because he's at half health, do I press my luck knowing that if I survive this battle, then I can heal up?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just the banner, like there were 3 of those, right? 3 banner sagas, something like that.
I was gonna say, I know I've played one of them, and I don't even remember that mechanic. So
yeah. Jala, what does Alex Kyber say?
Alex Kyber says, Dead Space definitely has the most unique and different type of health bar, having it be an in-universe mechanism that honestly has the best / unsettling sound when any character dies. Simple flatline. Simple but effective.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I think when it comes to in-game ambient health bar on your character, Trespasser did it better.
the breast tattoo?
Yep.
With the health? Yeah. Let's see. I need to get back.
I do love the flatline sound. That was actually something I really liked from Half-Life 2 with the Combine soldiers.
Yeah, that was really good feedback. Yeah. Let's see here. Battlefish writes, first thing that comes to mind has to be Earthbound's rolling health counter. All damage you take is displayed as the counter ticking down, but you don't actually die until it visually hits 0, giving you a little time to heal and prevent a KO or finish the fight.
That would be a neat mechanic for a fighting game.
Oh, yeah. Huh. I mean, it's a little bit like a precursor to what would happen with Bloodborne, right?
Oh yeah, with the regain.
Yeah. Well, and then they would go and work. I think the health system in Mother 3 also plays with that plus the rhythm kind of thing.
Huh.
Yeah, they do interesting stuff with health in that series. Let's see. Ben, what does Late Fines say?
Late Fines says, I always liked Max Payne's Max Payne health system and how you needed to chow down on painkillers to stay alive.
I really enjoyed it, although I hated the way the changes they made to it in Max Payne 3.
Oh yeah. But I mean, did they just they made them into just more of a standard health system in Max Payne 3, right?
The one I'm
for the
thinking
time,
of is they made it so that if you lost all your health instead of but had painkillers, instead of dying, you would like instantly go into slow motion and heal a portion of your health.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was the way the game played. Often, like if that happened, you had already lost, and what you really needed was to, a lot of the encounters. It's like, no, what I need is to get through this encounter with at least 6 painkillers left. So if I have 6. And I go into the die mode, even if that allows me to get through the encounter, I've already lost the encounter because I now don't have enough healing items for the rest of the level.
Gotcha. It's a way to be a dead man walking.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Also funny because it tried to do like the sort of Batman-inspired, like you'll have injuries actually show up on your character.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is a lot of them weren't realistic, so like you'd end up with like halfway through the level like a bullet hole straight through your torso,
right?
And your character's just running around diving with what's obviously a lethal injury.
I love whenever a game system has that, like, oh, I took damage and so the clothing is tattered up or whatever, but the clothing mends itself when you heal.
Yep.
Like it's a symbiote suit or something. Yeah.
I'm waiting for a game to actually lean into that and be like the heal is like time reversium capsules or something.
I'm sure some places, some gamers use that as a conceit. Yeah. Jala, what does Robinson say?
Robinson says, feels slightly unimaginative to pick perhaps the biggest game in video games, but I always appreciated the sharp elegance of Super Mario's power-up system. Getting a mushroom to have an extra hit point and then getting a fire flower / tail / cape for a special ability on top is kind of perfect.
Agreed. And I felt this the most when I was playing Mario 64 for WoF, a game I played before, obviously. But I forgot how weird it is to play any game where Mario has a health bar.
Oh, yeah. That and Sunshine was... Are those the only two that have had that? Not kind of like the RPG?
I think Galaxy and Odyssey have it as well. It's just a weird thing about 3D Marios.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. If nobody said Mario, I was going to bring that as mine. Not to be like, aha, yes, no, the greatest of them is the obvious one you didn't think, but just I genuinely do think that is a really good system, and it's wild that they fucking nailed it right away, and kind of only made it better, at least in the 2D games. You know,
I like the way that the model some of them have where you can like bank a power up. I like the way that becomes both like, what power-up do I want to have available for a run, but also becomes like, oh, this is kind of my, hacking way to like heal myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My actual one I'm going to say is the system in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one that comes up when I'm just kind of thinking about that. And that's because
is that you eat snakes?
Kind of. Your health regenerates, and the extent to which it will regenerate kind of depends on how many injuries you have. And by injuries, I mean like things that you go into the menu and like set a limb and a splint, or suture up a cut, or apply salve to a burn or whatever, and the rate at which it regenerates is tied to your stamina bar, which is tied to how well fed you are. Like Pathologic does this in a really good way where all of your meters kind of push and pull on each other, but I think that Metal Gear Solid is the one that is most easy to understand and is not tied into a bunch of like actual survival stuff like Pathologic's is.
Interesting. That does sound kind of cool.
Yeah, it's neat. Did I get that right, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes me remember when you're sitting by the river and they go through the tutorial.
Yeah, when your mentor yanks your arm out of its socket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see, Ben. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like this is a weird reversal where we're answering one another's, but I was going to say Silent Hill, where the like vagueness of the hit point, it's like you just have like a color and it's tied to the heartbeat monitor, was I think a good way to do it because of, I don't know, it makes you more like empathize with the character of like what they're going through. Like, oh, your heartbeat's really high right now. Sorry, bud. But yeah.
Yeah. And then you crack open a glass ampule of what has to be some just killer grade painkiller. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moxie, how about you?
I think mine is Magi Nation back on the Game Boy Advanced. So the game is based on, it's kind of a weird, like, if you took a Pokemon-themed card game and then made it into an actual Pokemon game. Mm-hmm. So the gameplay is like halfway between a collectible card game, except that your cards are straight up the Pokemon you've caught. It's really weird. But an end result of that is it has the kind of the Magic the Gathering thing where you have combat with summons, but you also yourself have HP and you can't be targeted directly if you have a summon out.
Mm-hmm.
However, the two interesting kind of twists on that is one, your mana and your health are the same thing. So you're spending health to cast, but along with that, not only can enemies not target your actual character, that determines your win or lose if you have a summon out, but you actually can't die if you have a summon out. So you could be sitting at 0 HP, but as long as you have a summon out, you won't lose. Which just creates a bunch of interesting situations. You'll often find when you're playing tough boss fights, you'll have things where it'll just be this massive slog to try to get through, a tanky line of enemies. And then once you do, all of a sudden the enemy mage will just crumple because they only actually had like a handful of HP left after casting all their spells. So it's just a very interesting, different take on that sort of system.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I know that Imagination is it's an old favorite standby yours.
Yep.
Yeah. And Jala, how about you?
Mine would be Dive Kick, because Dive Kick kind of changed up how a lot of fighting games played for a little bit, or at least was an interesting installation into fighting games as, a competitive thing, even if it was not necessarily like a massive takeover, because in that game you have two buttons, you have dive and you have kick. And they have a health bar, but it's there for comedy's sake, more or less, because anything that you get hit once and you die. So it's basically like the original Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
So
the original Street Fighter that 4 people have played.
Yes.
Have any of you guys looked at the One Punch Man fighting game?
No.
So the whole conceit of that is you don't play as One Punch Man. And for people who don't know, One Punch Man's like a parody of shonen manga heroes where he's just infinitely strong. He literally is invulnerable and can defeat any enemy with one punch. However, he's super irresponsible. So
and
the
also
game is
just morbidly depressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the game is literally like, a monster shows up. You're some other character. You call up this guy and he's like, I overslept. I'm on the other side of this city. Survive this fight for like 30 seconds and then I'll take care of it for you. And so it's a fighting game where you can't win, but if you survive long enough, he just shows up and one-shots whoever you're fighting.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for writing in. Thanks to Dennis and Absentia for posting that. We're moved over fully to Blue Sky for multiplayer. So, thanks folks for making that move with us. If you would like to participate, you go on Blue Sky and you follow, at thelevelpodcast.bsky.social. Watch for those to go up on Monday afternoons and then just reply. And we wrestle against the way Blue Sky orders responses in the reply threads, but that's for us to worry about, not you.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games and how we feel about them. Ben, you have some follow-up from last week?
Yeah, this is just following up about the Marvel Snap thing. I think I talked about last week how it had gone down, and I can't remember if on the time of recording it was back up already or if that happened later, but they did come back within, I guess, 48 hours, I think. So I think they were up Monday or Tuesday, so it should have been up when we were recording. But the follow-up story is that they announced to players that they're going to give them basically a whole bunch of like in-game economy as a way to kind of apologize for the outage. And this is, I guess people expected some sort of like compensation because they usually do this like if there's a bug or something like that in the game that would prevent people. But somebody did a calculation of like, because they have, so many different currencies. So someone did a calculation and it kind of comes out to being about like $200 worth of in-game economy that they're giving to each player.
Oh, wow.
It's all made up, economy. So it's like whether or not it's actually worth $200 depends on how like addicted you are to this game, probably. But but it's a substantial amount of like in-game economy. So that is cool if you like the game and you weren't really impacted that much like me. But they're giving it out sometime this week. It'll probably be out by the time this episode is released. But yeah.
Seems classy of them to do that for something that is 100% not their fault.
Yeah. It's an interesting strategy because like I have not seen a single legitimate person be like they should have done more. Or, and I think they have the leeway to do this sort of thing because it's all kind of like this artificial economy. People can't sell their collection to other people or anything like that. So it's like, giving people a bunch of in-game economy like this, it only helps them get more cards in the game, which, maybe they're not spending money to do that, but at the same time, it's virtually free for them to do this. So
yeah, it's just opportunity cost, and not everybody was going to buy that. So it's just, windfall for some people who are just playing for free. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the cynical edge to this is this was probably the first time that people probably realized like, oh, this game that maybe some people have invested a lot of money into have been like, oh, I don't actually this is all gone if the app goes down,
Yeah.
So it could be a way to try and get people back into it and feel less scared about that sort of thing if they do invest that sort of money. But
no,
that is not me. I don't spend any money on it. So
no. I already said what I thought about that. That's a good move on their part. Yeah. Let's see. I've got one. So a thing that has happened in relation to Hellworld, sorry, I'm going to talk about Hellworld, is that a lot of corporations have, kind of revealed maybe how flimsy their commitment to, diversity has been. Right, a lot of places just tearing down whatever DEI initiatives they had. But different companies are pushing back in their own way. However, there are people of all kinds of stripes inside of all kinds of different companies, and some of them are real pieces of shit. And it appears, according to GameDeveloper.com, that somebody on the inside of Activision Blizzard is sharing Slack channel screenshots of individual developers kind of voicing their opinions about how important those initiatives are, or, how they feel being a marginalized person in a company in this environment. They are taking those screenshots, leaking them to people in the harassment campaign network, and these people are getting doxxed and harassed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been something Activision has done for years, right?
I don't remember hearing about it. I know
Blizzard. I thought they were known for like being a really toxic place to work.
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard of very, very bad managers at Blizzard and real bro-y culture and stuff like this.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a terrible thing to have, in addition to one of your coworkers who you probably know exactly who it is, but there's nothing that can be done to prove that they are doing it, inviting that kind of toxicity into your personal life just because of who you happen to be.
Yeah, that's kind of bullshit.
How Activision and Blizzard handle this, I think, is going to set a tenor. I do not believe that I have a lot of hope that they're going to handle it especially well. But I would recommend, if you know somebody who is doing this, there are ways that you can make life hard for them. maybe not if you're one of their targets, but if you're aware they're doing it, and you happen to be somebody maybe with a little bit more power or clout than the victimized people, lots of stuff you can do, I think. So that's me winking.
Right.
Chitty, why anybody would choose to actively make life worse for these people is beyond me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it. I just wanted, I didn't want to end on that story because it would be a real bummer, but it feels worth saying that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe a better story. Moxie, what's happening? What's happening with you? I can't see your story here, so I'm just throwing to you.
Okay, so this one, it ended up being one of those stories that's really cool, but in retrospect might not be the most podcast conducive story. So the Mario franchise has kind of two logos they go for. One is the older kind of long skinny text type of thing, but the other is sort of polygonal text in a bunch of different rainbow colors.
Yeah, the Mario 64 style.
Right, yeah. It's mostly, although not exclusively, used in the 3D Marios. However, notably in these words, each letter is a different color, and the colors aren't consistent.
Yeah.
So someone went through and did like a statistical analysis of the colors specifically in the Mario word Mario in the text to determine scientifically maybe what is the most Mario color scheme. So again, this one of those things, it's kind of cool, but I realized then like it's kind of just a bunch of numbers, so it's hard to talk about. But just things like, for example, out of, I believe, 40 games that use this color scheme, in 25 of them, the M is red. And in 28 of them, the A is green. And it's something like, there's just all over. And I believe they decide that the most Mario color scheme... Well, I just reading a string of colors is going to be interesting. But basically, there's several color schemes they determine are the most Mario color scheme. So,
yeah,
I know. I guess this is sort of just a thing that exists, and if you're a math nerd, check it out.
Yeah, it's just picking the probability of what color shows up on what letter, and just standardizing it for Nintendo, who refuses to standardize it. What would be infuriating? Shit! 2 of the letters are the same color in the most Mario color scheme. Both the A and the O are green, which is not satisfying at all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. Speaking of percentages, Jala, what is one of these results from the Game Developer Survey?
Yeah, the Game Developer Survey found that 80% of developers are making games for PC this year. Last year, that number was 66%. So runners up were the PS5 at 38% and Xbox Series X and S with 34%. Web browser game development is also increasing. It's 16%. This marks the most interest in browser-based gaming in the last decade. And the uptick for the PC is thought to be in part because of the Steam Deck, because for the purposes of this survey, it was not counted as its own unique platform as it's a hub for PC and Mac titles. But many survey respondents think of it as a unique platform, likely because of its specific specs, and 44% wrote in Steam Deck in the other box. So, anyway, the Steam Deck is making a big dent on the market. I mean, a lot of people already should know that by now, especially since people are using it not just for Steam, but also just to use it to play emulated games and things like that as well, to kind of like everything platform.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see differentiating it by spec, right? Like we are making this game, but we are targeting it so that people can run it on Steam Deck in order to gain that market of people whose primary way is to have that. I wonder how long it will stay lumped in.
Don't know. That's a good question.
In terms of not making a Steam Deck 2 or whatever?
Oh, no. How long, this survey will continue to lump Steam Deck in with PC instead of breaking it out. But also, I do not know, a consistent way that you could define the difference between those. It is, I don't know. If you're making a game that targets, Xbox Series X, that is basically just developing for a particular spec of PC too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it eventually runs on PC, it's a PC. If it doesn't, it's I mean, probably not worth your time, but also a console.
Yeah. Interesting stuff about this. That's definitely a typo in VR AR. 14% are developing stuff for VR AR. It says 114, so I don't know about that.
Well, no, because you have to develop for both eyes.
Yes, this is true. Yeah. Good point. Also, it is weird to see media platforms like Netflix and TikTok that has to be developing for the weird little filters that kind of have games to them. Only 3% are making it for Minecraft, and then coming up the rear, the little tiny animal at the end of the parade is Playdate with 1%.
What is Playdate?
Oh, that's the little black and white portable system that has the crank on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's still around. This is not terribly surprising, and I think that it is hard to put this on anybody, but I will blame Sony, but also any of the console manufacturers for having shortages during COVID. I would say. You
say blame like this isn't an unalloyed good.
Oh no, I will attribute this. I think a lot of people, there is a lot of, let's say, hesitancy around how stable console market's going to be. And I think a lot of people just see PC as the safer, easier choice.
Well, it seems like Microsoft is basically decided that PC and Xbox are the same thing.
Yeah. Their whole everything is an Xbox campaign. They can't make more Xboxes in my house. I won't let them.
Xboxing.
Oh God. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Nope.
How do people feel about buttoning it up?
I feel buttons.
Velcro.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to level number 530. We appreciate you taking the time. You know what to do to help out the show and the network. Patreon, ratings or reviews, telling your friends. All of it helps. Participate in the multiplayer. Follow us on thelevelpodcast.bsky.social. Yeah, you got it. You know what to do. Jala, what's happening at Jala Chan's place?
Yeah, so the last time I was on, I was mentioning the Mappa Mundi episode that I released at that time. The Mappa Mundi Kickstarter starts out on, I believe it is February the 4th, which is a Tuesday. So right after this episode drops in the next week, that is going to be going live. And so it's very cool. It's already picked as one of Kickstarter's favorite projects. So, it hasn't even launched yet and it's already a favorite project. So just want to let folks know about that. Just a reminder to check that out. But also, Kole, you were on my show recently, and we recently released the episode about Brahma Yugam, The Age of Madness, which is a very cool movie from India.
Yeah. Cool horror movie. I mentioned that I was on the episode last week, actually. So directed people there, but it's still up, I assume.
Yes, it will still be up. And the next episode that comes up is one appropriate to our day and age and time and situation. It'll be on trauma response. That'll be the next episode coming out on February 7, I believe. So
cool. Sweet. Is there anything I'm forgetting?
no.
All right. Cool. Well, I have been Kole Ross. You can find me on Blue Sky at Kole Ross.
I've been Moxie. You can find me in the apocalypse.
I'm Jala-chan in the places that I may be found, which are shorter and smaller of a list.
And I've been Ben Merkel.
Jala-chan in the good places.
Yeah,
And
right.
and Ben, you've been who?
I've continued to be Ben Merkel.
Okay. And stick around for some titles. I have one. I have Reverberating Smacks.
Ooh. I'm hungry,
yeah.
so that sounds good.
Wait, was this snacks or smacks?
Smacks.
Oh,
Unless you're,
Yeah, it's like-
snacking on some sugar smacks.
Well, you know, I wouldn't recommend it. That is heinously bad for you, even as far as sugar cereals go. Yeah, that's the only one that I have. Who else has them? Ben, you got a title?
I'm all out this week.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
Cole.
wow.
Moxie?
No, the whole world has sapped my energy.
Jala?
I already said I didn't have any titles.
Oh, sorry, no. Ben?
Back to me again. No, I still don't have any. I'm sorry.
Okay. I have Reverberating Smacks. I guess it's decided.
There we go.
It's decided by default.